Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Sweet Home, Season 3, Episode 6. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Let's start off where the last episode left off, but we kind of get like a little bit of a different thing before we pick up exactly where last episode left off. We have Hyun, both sides of Hyun interacting. Well, one's unconscious. The Hyun we know is unconscious, whereas like the blue-eyed one, the other him, is saying like, why am I acting like you? Like, the fact is, I'd bother saving Hyuk and Eon-yu. Like, why would I do that? I wouldn't. I'm only doing it because that's what you do. Why am I acting more like you? What's the whole purpose of it? It's almost like you've infected me. It's like, I've always been a part of you. You kind of denied me, but it's not just this situation upon your monsterization. I've always really been a part of you. And it's like the moment we become one, which one of us will wake up first? And the Hyun that we know ends up being the one that wakes up. And I guess that's why he had the flame aspect of his wings, because it's them molding and merging into one. Now, whether that's a permanent situation, probably not. Like a Hail Mary near the end of this series might make the other kind of take a little control and Hyun might lose himself again. But we'll see. We'll see if that's the direction they go or not. But he is back and he's in front of Hyuk and he like gives him, extends his wing out and has Hyuk pull off one of them. It's like, yes, you're fast, but that might not be enough. So you need some kind of weapon. Like, you have some strength, but you're still going to need a weapon for what comes next. So it's like, right, take one of the feathers from my wings. So it's like Eon-yu doesn't know how to react because she's happy and is like, tears of joy, because for her it's like, I have both of you back. I have you and my brother back. And it's like, all I have to do is like bring him back to his senses. Then it'll be like, this is she talks about how it almost feels like a dream having them both back, because she wanted them both back and now she has them. As they were walking past a playground, she was like, oh, you remember we would play hide and seek and you were so good at it, like, I could never find you. So at one point I gave up. A dog got snatched off its leash and you poked your head out to see it, and that's how I caught you. But he says, like, right, if you want to try and bring me back, make me remember what it's like to have emotions, then you might want to just stick to the facts. Because the dog didn't break off its leash. You let it go because you felt bad for it. So it's like, right, the memories are still there. And I agree with Hyun later on, who says, like, I think you're doing this, you're pretending, because it's easier to do what you need to do. And because, once again, we see the sentimentality. He kept the photo. If he didn't have any emotions at all, why would he keep the photo? Eon-yu doesn't know that he kept that photo, like the family photo. Because the whole conversation of like, right, we're not even related by blood. It's like, you care about your sister, but you're like, to do what I need to do, I need to bury how I'm feeling right now. Because they probably have bubble beneath the surface. Maybe like, at one point in time, your emotions were numbed, but now they have been slowly coming back. That's why you didn't want to be around your sister, why you actually didn't go look for her, because you were hoping like, right, she's okay, but if I'm around her, I won't do what I need to do, whatever that may be. So I believe he's doing what he's doing as usual and just tries to be the cold bastard he always was, and he's trying to keep that front up. But I do agree with Hyun, because he's like, do you really not care? Do you really not have any emotions? Or are you just pretending? Because partway through it, Eon-yu starts having these auditory hallucinations, and that's one of the symptoms. So she's, even though her nose hasn't started bleeding, she's thinking she's going, like, the process has already started for her. So she's like, right, I don't need to tag along with you for this. But it's like, if I turn out like my brother, just make sure you make me relearn my emotions again. She's like, no matter how much of a jerk I am, like, promise me you'll do that. He's like, I will. Because she's like, right, you need to go on ahead. Miss Cha and Youngsu are going to be so happy to see you. Like, there's a lot of people that are going to be happy to see you. So he's like, I'm going to bring them back, including Eon Hyuk. I'm going to bring them back with me to you. And so he's known for a while that she started the process. I guess that's why he was like, oh, you're being so... I wonder, has her nose started bleeding before now and she's just kind of kept it hidden? Usually you won't be able to, but it could just be like, this is the first time it's coming up about like any symptoms at all, because she might not have gotten a nosebleed. Usually that's the first symptom, but maybe things are a little changing a little bit in her particular circumstances. Or like I said, maybe she has had nosebleeds, but she's covered it up till now because she's trying to push it to the side until she can be reunited with Hyun. and Eon Hyuk because she knew she had such a limited amount of time to get Hyun back, and now she's working double time trying to get her brother back. Like, well, she's got him back, but not back. So. But either way, Hyun's kind of ignoring Hyuk. It's like, right, I know what I need to do, and I'm not going to waste any more time talking to you because you want to hide behind, like, pretending like you're not there, like, hiding your emotions. Fine, do whether that's real, whether that's you faking, I don't care. I know what I need to do, and they make haste for the stadium because he's like, I'm going to bring you back to your sister. So we have that side of things, and then we have the rest of the episode taking place inside of the stadium. It turns out, it seems like I'd assume everyone that got by Yisu is people who came looking after her. Based on the amount of people she gathered, either those were people who were going to meet up with the Crow Platoon, or those were just people that were sent after her. Like, it seemed like it was going to be a smaller group that came after her, so it might have just been like anyone she could find she started picking off, because she started building up her own army, because to go up against her dad, she knew she would need people, like, because she can't really fight herself, like, that's not how her powers work, but she can mind control, well, make monsters, so it's like, I'm going to do that, I'm going to make an army of my own to go off my dad, because she's going to get her get back for what happened to Yikyong. So... And I thought was interesting the moment we saw Yeongsu and we saw that green slime, I was like, because I was thinking about it last episode, the way his clothes were left behind. I was like, did he become that slime thing? And yes, he does. Even though it's in season 1, they never. This is kind of a conjoined thing. Like, it's important. It's not irrelevant, but also relevant. It's interesting parallels because the green slime thing, they never cover it in the TV show. It's covered in a webtoon. That is a little kid. That slime monster they met that helps out in season 1. It helps out the siblings, or at least one of them, but I believe it's both of them. It's a little kid that becomes that slime. The TV show never covers it, but it does in the webtoon, because it actually pops up like a little bit more in the webtoon than it does in the TV show. Not a lot more, but just a little bit more. Until you find out its background. It's like, yeah, it was a little kid. I believe it kind of has the same fate. I think it dies in the webtoon as well, like it does in the TV show, but I can't remember. But yeah, for my whole point was like, oh, it's very poetic that Young-soo will turn into that, because the whole conversation about like, Soo Young got the medal, for protecting, and he gave it to Yisu. And now it's like she turned him into a monster, and in his mind, that's the monster that protected him back in the day. So like, it almost feels poetic he would turn into one as well like that, because that was also his way of like, maybe subconsciously, that was his way of like, I can help people in this. I don't know. Maybe it's just a combination of, this is a form I know can help people, but also like I'm afraid and like I'm lost, so it took on, like, there's psychological means behind like why the form he has is very significant. I just think it's an interesting parallel that because I thought about that last episode, but I was like, that's probably not going to be the case. I was like, I wish I had kept that thought in mind of like what monster he would become. I wish I had said something, especially like I said, when his clothes were left behind. So, but yeah, like everyone that's after her, kind of, at least the main group we know that went after her got. The dude with glasses, who was kind of one of the main instigators, he ended up getting killed by Sungwon. It's like, it's a little payback for the fact is that he's the one that sold Yisu and Yikyong out. So he's kind of like, I'm glad he doesn't get to be alive. I'm glad he's dead. It's just sad because it's almost like if Yisu had taken him out of the picture back then, and instead of him getting away, then maybe, it is sad how there's always the ones that get away that come back to screw you over later on. The ones who put a dagger or, knife in your back. But there's I didn't really touch on it, but the Crow Platoon's plan is to gather as many survivors as they can to try and sneak out, because they know some exits in this place because of Chief G. So they're going around leaving notes for people, not telling them directly what's going on, just because, well, you don't want people panicking and rushing because it's going to be super suspicious and draw the attention of the special effecties. But it's more so like, I think just in case the special effecties see the note, they won't think much of it. It's coded in that regard. So people are showing up. The only person who didn't get one is the lady that the priest is looking for. And I'm curious, is that because they couldn't see her, or they just happened to pass her by? Because they were like passing it to very specific people. So I don't think they were able to just kind of help everyone, because if you get everyone, it's going to draw a lot of attention. Like, that's why I'm like, I don't know how many of that group was like everyone that Yisu turned. Are they people that were actually after her? Because some of the people that were after her didn't believe. The only one, like, main dude, the dude who ratted on Yikyong, that dude knows that Yisu can turn people into monsters because he's seen it firsthand. So I just don't. So some of the group definitely didn't believe it. But he was helping out because he was like, well, he believed it, but also he's like, well, if we get that kid, we can get out of here. And it's like, wait, you're going to get out of here just so we can die out there? But it's like, well, if you're lucky enough to find another cocoon, you can use that as kind of a safe haven. So maybe that's Home Dude's thinking. Once again, moot point now because he's dead, and I'm kind of glad he died. That character died. But yeah, so Tak is making his moves too. He gets the. Was that something we saw in season 2? Because I completely don't remember him pulling the. As we find out later on, it's Sungwon's blood out of her body. Like, I guess he had stashed it in her body the entire time. Like, I guess every time he knocked her out, he would like cut her open and hide it in there because it's the best place to hide it or whatever. But it's like, yeah, that's how he made his special infectees. Is Songwon's blood. Specifically, for it to be Songwon's blood, it has to be like directly from his body. So, because it's like he can't use it now because it's not Songwon's original body anymore. Even though the monster's inside of Siakwu. Is it Siakwu? The original body that Songwon's in right now. I'm trying to remember his name. It's Songwoo. I knew that didn't sound right, but it's Songwoo. I think I said Siakwu a previous episode, but it's like his name is Songwoo, the original body and everything. So I don't think it worked because it's in his new body. Being in his original body, sure, you could get the blood samples, but it's kind of a moot point. So because of the state his body was in, he still could draw blood, or maybe these are the only blood samples he drew while Songwon was still alive. But now that he's in a different body, his original body's kind of dead. So I don't know if he's able to continuously pump blood from it. I doubt it. But either way, he was going to give it to Tak to make him a special infectee until Tak was like, oh yeah, he's looking for that girl because she can turn people into monsters, and that stopped Lim. Because he was initially, like, his plan was always to use the special blood on himself, but the problem is he never ever showed any symptoms, and he's kind of acting like a baby about it, being like, the fact of the matter is it happened to everyone and not me. It's like, it's because you wanted it so badly. Also feels poetic considering, like, what you did to, your old friend Songwon, so it's like, so for you not to end up symptomatic feels very poetic. But he's Dr. Jekyll trying to become Dr. Hyde. And he swallows the blood to keep it from Tak because he wants to find Yisu, because he's like, oh, she turns me a monster, she gives me symptoms and stuff, I'll use the blood. Maybe with the blood being swallowed by me, it'll automatically turn me into what I want it to be. The scientist trying to discover stuff and using himself as kind of a case study in a lot of ways. It's like, oh, I'll be the perfect test subject, with what Yisu's capable of doing. So that kind of blows up what Tak wanted to do. But Tak does learn because Hani snuck in, got in contact with Tak, and was like, yo, you're just scary looking dude. And Chong, Seok, and Sergeant Kim snuck in, and Tak and Kim had this really nice moment where he's like, oh, I heard you were calling me this scary looking man. It's like, well, aren't you, sir? You're always frowning and never see you smile and stuff like that. But he also gives him the dog tags and says, like, everything that happened, like, I shouldn't have gone because everyone that went with me died. Even bringing up, was it Yeon Seok? Which the woman who, like, needed medication, it's like, no, leave me behind because I'm the reason why he died. But the guy brings her regardless. Because she's like, right, I'm only going to last a couple more days. It's like, well, that's a couple more days you'll survive. And Yeon Seok wouldn't want you to live, so he doesn't say all that, but I think it's just implied with the fact is he brings her to where everyone else is. But either way, Kim is beating himself up because the thing is, he is the only one who ended up surviving that excursion. And it's like, right, you told I shouldn't have done that. But Tak also puts it on himself. It's like, they were my orders. I also lied to you guys. I was symptomatic even back then, but I didn't say anything. So that is on me for lying to you guys. so the price is more on me than you. So it's like, and now this conversation about like what kind of monster he'll be, and it's like you are a soldier through and through. So the least you can do, if you become a monster, which he's like, you are always kind of a monster, regardless of all this, and talk kind of laughs. But it's like, because he was like, oh, I could be a bomb, and it's like, well, you can, it would take a lot more to that. The whole point is, as a soldier, you're going to be someone that sees your duty through and through. You'll either be someone that kills or you'll be someone that protects, but you'll be a weapon we can use. But it's like, that's kind of a soldier's duty at the very, very end. So telling Talk to hold on. So he's been able to hold on until now, but I think now that that special infectee situation was supposed to be his Hail Mary to have some semblance of control, he doesn't know if that's eventually going to creep over and his will isn't going to be strong enough anymore, and he's just going to give in and become a monster. So we'll see. You had I think it's Yuseo and Miss Cha looking for Seongyu, and they end up running into Yisu, and Yisu was about to turn Miss Cha into a monster, but Young-soo stops her, because it's almost like, right, don't do this to her too. And it's because she was nice to well, I think it could be a multitude of things. One, I need more bodies for my army. Two, I also, if you're a monster, that means we can all be together. So Young-soo would want you with us. But for him, it's like, no, don't turn her. And then, like, for her to break down once she sees him, it's like, you're Young-soo, aren't you? And it is sad, because, like, when you're sitting there, you're just reminded of, right, she's already lost a child before. Because I don't remember if she was already looking after Soo-young and Seongyu before the stadium situation, because obviously, like, sadly, Soo-young died before they got to the stadium. But I'm trying to remember, did she, because once again, the looking after her, the kids kind of went from person to person, because it was initially, like I said, I think it was like Myung and Dusik, and then eventually went to Gil Siap. He kind of looked after him, and then it became Miss Cha. I think they kind of dual looked after them. So I think she was like, she already lost one daughter, she lost Soo-young, and so it had just been her and Young-soo for so long. And it's just like, right, like another kid in this situation, and I think she doesn't say anything, but there's this look on Yisu's face like she does regret what she did, because she didn't realize, like, because it was almost like the way her mom looked by the end when it came to her, that it was kind of like, I don't think she realized her turning Young-soo into what he did, because she thought she was making his wish come true, but also she was in her feelings about what happened to her mom, that she just needed help. And I think it's a lot of things. I don't think it's just one thing, And so, because Yisu doesn't, there's a lot Yisu doesn't understand about the world. So her doing that, and once again, maybe she was thinking if she could turn Miss Cha into a monster, it'd all be fine, because they could all be together. But I don't know if that was the main motivation behind her actions or not. But when that's all said and done, though, sadly, Sung-won shows up, and Miss Cha tries to appease to him, and it's like, you brought my daughter back to me. And they show that scene from season 1, which sadly the only thing I could think about in that scene is, man, everyone in this scene is dead. Literally everyone in that scene is dead, which is sad as shit to kind of think about. And it seemed like maybe on some level, at least early on in season 2, Song-woo was still in there to some extent, and it seemed like maybe she was getting to him in that moment, but it's unclear. But just to kind of make a point to Yisu, it's like, oh, this is what's going to happen when you run away, and he stabs Miss Cha and kills her, and then Young-soo goes over and kind of like crawls, like slimes over towards her and holds onto her hand as she dies. It's like, that sucks. I was hoping like that, especially because Hyun was just being like, yeah, like, because she was like, oh, Miss Cha and Young-soo, which they are the only other two survivors that are at the stadium, because in the grand scheme of things, this is where we kind of get interesting. It's kind of a spoiler for the webtoon, but also I'm not going to go into specifics. We are down to technically 4 survivors from the Green Home. We've got Hyun, we've got Eun-yu, we've got Eun-hyuk, and we've got Young-soo. Yes, he's a monster, but he's still alive. So we're putting it at 4. Sung-woo is dead. He was already kind of dead before before Sungwon took over his body, but even if he was still technically counted as alive, let's say you even wanted to throw him in there, that's 5 now. That is actually less than as how many people survive at the end of the webtoon. Like, I won't specify who survives, but the number is different. So I'm like, that is interesting. But also, once again, it's sad because for the most part, most of the OG crew from the Green Home is dead. Because in the webtoon, your entire cast is the survivors of the Green Home. It's no like in this, because it goes beyond where the webtoon was, because it's kind of its own thing. And because the ending of season 1 is different than how things play out in the webtoon, and because of that, it led to the show having the story that is season 2 and 3. And because of that, we got introduced to other characters, so there's a lot more survivors to kind of keep account for. But like in the webtoon, it's just the Green Home apartment people, so that group of survivors are our characters all the way through the webtoon, so it hits even more so. But because the show has continued and our cast has expanded, it still sucks to know, like, right, like most of the OG crew is dead and gone. So some very, very interesting developments, and obviously the episode ends with Yisu sicking her army on Songwon, but it's not going to be good. He's going to rip through and kill every one of those people, because the way Talk was able to keep him distracted was by telling him, like, oh yeah, Dr. Lim, he made those other special infectees by using your blood. Oh, you didn't know that. Like, Dr. Lim was keeping that from you, just like you kept the fact is Yisu could make monsters. To be fair, well, he found it eventually, but he didn't know her powers initially when he brought Dr. Lim along, but he learned subsequently upon being here what she's capable of doing. So they were both kind of lying to each other. And also, Sungwon's gotten to the point that he's like, oh yeah, he told his right-hand dude, just kill the other two because they're useless. So obviously he never got to that in this episode, so we'll see where that goes. But I'm interested to see. We've only got 2 episodes left. It's so interesting because I made that point too of like, oh, we've only got like, what, technically 4 survivors, technically speaking, from the Green Home, but it's like, well, might even have less by the end of the series. 2 episodes, a lot could happen in those 2 episodes. Like I said, I'm so curious to see how this plays out in comparison to, like I said, I think we could still technically get the webtoons ending, but all to an extent we technically already did because of the stadium and everything. We kind of did already get the webtoons ending to an extent. It's almost like, oh, we got the webtoons ending, but a little beyond, even though it's not a one-to-one. It's a whole thing. Like I said, I'm trying not to go into too deeply into spoilers, because I highly recommend. Once again, it's a very different experience. There's a lot of similarities, but it is kind of quite the different experience and showcase reading a webtoon. You'll get a lot of, oh, that's interesting, that's different, but like it's still kind of a completely different journey in some regards. So it's still well worth the read. So either way, that's all I kind of wanted to say on that front. I've kind of brought that point up every time I talk about Sweet Home webtoon versus the TV show. Like I said, I did a whole non-spoiler video about it if you want to check that out. But yeah, like I said, I'm excited to see where the next 2 episodes take us, as the penultimate episode sets forth and sets up the series finale and how this all plays out and how this all comes to an end. But really, that's all I want to talk about. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.